Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight to the 2014 The Paw Municipal Election Open Forum, brought to you by the Opasquia Times. My name is Mark Anders. I'd like to thank each and every one of you and the candidates that are able to attend this evening. And unfortunately, there are a couple of councillor candidates, Marianne Federley and Ken Gerba, who are unable to attend due to prior work-related commitments. They've provided us with a prepared statement which will be read on their behalf shortly. Before we get started, I'd like to ask that each of you turn off all of your cell phones for the duration of tonight's forum. And also a quick thanks to those who have volunteered their time, equipment, and staff to this evening event. I'd like to thank Brian Campbell, our sound and audio guy. Also thank you to John Morton from Sound Innovations for providing additional audio equipment. Thank you to Art Barbo's Security Service for providing us with security for tonight's event, and a huge thanks to Kelsey School Division for providing us this venue tonight free of charge so that we can have the opportunity to hear the candidates speak. In light of the recent fire at Mary Duncan School, a donations kettle has been set up at the front when you came in. Please, if you did not make a donation tonight, do so on your way out. We certainly appreciate that. Charitable receipts are also available, and if you'd like one, you can speak to Mary Duncan School staff afterward, and they'll advise you on how you can go about doing so. And also, I'd like to welcome some of the members from Mary Duncan School, their principal, Tara Manich, and some of their teachers who are right there at the end of this call, if you want to say hi. Welcome again, as I said, to the Opasquia Times Election Forum 2014. We'll now invite our candidates to give a brief speech on their platforms. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to speak and to explain their platform goals and objectives. The council candidates will go first. Their names have been put into a random order as follows: Brian Rock, Alan Gibb, Chad Zielinski, Marianne Federley, Andrew Forward, Margaret Commodore, Ken Gerba, Crystal Moorish. The mayoral candidates are also in random order. Mayor candidates will get 3 minutes for their opening statements, and they will go in this order: Terry Hendrickson, Jim Scott, Alan McLaughlin. So we'll start tonight. You'll have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Brian Rock.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And really, my platform is in part based on the fact that I've been doing some door-to-door and listening to what people had to say. And their issues are things like high property taxes, misguided use of taxes. They're concerned about the homeless and the street people, recreation, tourism in Devon Park. Part of some of the solutions to some of these issues are going to be in the area of town planning. My concern with regard to how we can do things better at town council is I'm worried about the processes we currently use to arrive at decisions. I want to find a better process, a more open process, and a process whereby they're making informed decisions. So collectively, the group is going to be the wisest if they have all the facts before them. Regarding town planning, some of the issues and things that come before us, I think one of the problems is we haven't heard what the town plan is, so we need to change it. Major infrastructure and capital projects. Well, where's the master plan so we're all aware and know what's going on? Underground infrastructure, sewer and water. That's always an issue, and the question today is, will this winter it happen again? Can anybody guarantee me? Dysfunctional or the function of our sewage lagoon. There's a problem there. We've been ticketed already, and once that system gets to the point where environment has to give us a citation for a problem, that starts to take on a life of its own, and we've got to resolve it. Potholes and the conditions of our streets are obvious. Landfill and the whole issue of getting a replacement landfill site or dealing with that issue. The whole thing about solving the problem is let's get a council that's going to work together, it's going to follow the rules, that's going to do the job and make the decisions you need made.
And that's time.
Thanks, Mark, and hello, everyone. Just so everyone knows, my name's Alan Gibb. I've lived in Nepal for about 10 years now. I'm married to my wife, Lisa, who's over there, and I have 3 young kids. Growing up, I earned 2 degrees, one in economics from Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, and the other from Masters in Business Admin from Laurier in Toronto. And right now, I sit on the Chamber Board, and I'm also on the board of the Manitoba Hotel Association. Given my background, I think I can bring a new perspective to council, maybe a new way of looking at things that hasn't been looked at before. And further to what Brian said, I think as a group, if we get some new faces in there, we'll be able to look at these issues in a new light and tackle them in a new way. The 2 big things I think we need to look at is, one is recreation. How I see it right now, we have 2 gems here. We have a great pool, we have a great wellness center, and they're sort of like our anchor tenants. Now we need to fill in around there, so there's been talk about a skateboard park and a splash pad and new ball diamonds. Well, we have everything right behind us here. We just need to come up with a plan and start working together with the service groups and volunteer groups and everyone, so we come up with a solid plan to get there. Now, I know there's probably not a lot of funding to do that, but I think as a collective group, we can make that happen. The other big one is infrastructure, which breaks down to roads, sewer, and water, and the landfill. So again, we got to look at new creative ways to fund these. I think there's been a lot of talk with the accommodation tax. My feeling has always been a third to a half of that should go to paying off the debentures for the pool and wellness center, and that would free up some funding as far as to get some of these capital projects done. And likewise, this new BIPOL money that is supposedly coming in, I think can be utilized the same way. I'm always one in believing we shouldn't overpromise and underdeliver, and I feel that's what's happened in the past. So I think going forward, these are the 2 things we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. Instead of calling out 10 seconds when there's that 10-second mark, I'm just going to put my hand up, okay, so I don't interrupt you. All right, Chad Zielinski.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name's Chad Zielinski, for people that don't know who I am. I was born and raised in Nepal, and I've lived here for most of my life. Went away to school for a few years, but other than that, I've always been here. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I've got a 9-year-old son, well, 9 years old tomorrow, and I work with my dad in a family construction business. I decided to run for town council for a few different reasons. You know, the biggest thing is I just want to help our town. I feel like we're maybe in a bit of a bad spot right now. There's some major issues that need to be dealt with. Property taxes, infrastructure, recreation. They're huge issues to everybody. And I feel that, you know, some of my knowledge and experience, I can do my best to help out and maybe do right by the town, I guess. That's basically what I'm looking to do. So, thank you.
I'll read a statement from Marianne Federley. She says, "Good evening. I would have preferred to be able to participate in tonight's forum in person. However, I made a commitment earlier in the year that has made that impossible. I know that for some of you that may mean I do not have your support come election day. I would like to let you all know that I believe my reason for not being here is a very good one. Tonight I am in St. John's, Newfoundland. That was the last stop for myself and 2 others from Manitoba who were asked to be part of a recruitment caravan of the East Coast. For the past 8 days, I've been participating in town hall meetings and recruitment fairs, doing my best to be an ambassador for Manitoba, and especially Northern Manitoba. I've been speaking to healthcare professionals and encouraging them to come to Manitoba. I've been advocating for us as a province and as a northern community and letting people know about all the opportunities we have to explore. I believe that the PA and surrounding communities have much to offer and that we as citizens can work together to capitalize on that. I look forward to what the future has to offer, and I'm so impressed with all the attention that this election seems to have, and hope that the enthusiasm from the citizens continues regardless of what council is formed, new or returning. I ask that you consider the following when thinking about who you will vote for. I live in the PA, was born and raised here, and I pay the same taxes you pay. I could live out of town, but I like the conveniences that are offered in town. I made a conscious choice to stay in the PA. I have the ability to go anywhere, but I stay. I want my toilet to flush every day, and I believe my neighbors want the same thing. I grew up playing sports and being a part of many recreational activities in town. My 3 children were able to participate in many of the same activities I did, and often with the same leaders and coaches that I had. I want to have many reasons for continuing to live and work in the PAW besides making a good wage. I believe I can be a voice for the average person. I'm not a business person. I have nothing personal to gain. I just think I can represent you. Thank you, Mary Ann Fetterman. Andrew Forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Forward. I am currently a councillor in the town of the PAW. Ran in 2010 and was elected. I am in the PAW since 1999, originally from the East Coast. One of the recruits that Mary Ann might be out trying to chase down could arrive here. But I have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from the University of New Brunswick, and I work every day in infrastructure, operations and maintenance and capital. And you know, it is one of our concerns, but at the root, I think, of everyone's concerns, everybody that's here tonight, the bottom line is that everybody is concerned about the rate of tax that they're paying on their properties. And then you couple that with, is the money being used effectively, efficiently, in the right ways? And I think that for the group that sat for the last 4 years, we've done a good job. Did we get everything perfectly right? Probably not. I would argue that anybody sitting somewhere doing any job for 4 years never gets it right all the time. But I think we've done a good job, and I think that I can offer and want to continue to offer support to our staff and managers and laborers at the town that are working in those fields. And I can bring a level of understanding and knowledge to the council table that helps that council team understand the issues they're dealing with and how best to approach them. If we have issues with lagoon, waste disposal site, these kind of things, you know, at some point in time, we may have to sit back and say, okay, where's the most effective way to use this money? I think we need to maintain what we have before we build new, and that's really where I come from. I live in an average house on an average street, and I pay taxes that are above average for Manitoba. I'd like to see us try and bring that in line, and appreciate your support come election day.
Margaret Commodore.
Hi, everybody. I'm in about the same boat as Chad here. I'm very, very nervous. Anyways, a lot of people know me. I'm Margaret Commodore. I run a cute little coffee shop downtown, Liette's. The reason I'm doing this, standing in front of you, is because I think it's my turn. I want to do something for the community. I've been here since I was 16. I have 2 kids, 5 grandkids, a bird. No. I really like the PAW. I like the surrounding area. Everybody knows I do not live in the PAW. I live 5 miles south of town, but my day is right downtown in the PAW. There's a lot of problems that everybody knows that we're having, you know, to repeat, the lagoon, this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. I think I can just sit in that chair, be honest. I have a big learning curve to do. If I have to ask, like I've said before, 25,000 questions, I'll ask them until I know in my heart I have the right answer. And I will make the decision not because I can, or vote a certain way because I can, because it's the right way to do. Other than that, I thank you for your time and the opportunity to stand in front of you. I look forward to working with any one of you guys. We'll see who gets in. I hope we all do. I think we got a pretty good round of faces up here. And have a good evening. Thank you.
And a letter from Ken Gerba. He says, I'm sorry I could not make this public forum. I'm out of town on work-related business. I've had the best interests of the citizens of this community for over 34 years, from my volunteer work, first aid instruction, and my several professions. I've served 3 terms on council, always providing input that puts the interests of the entire community into consideration. As a councillor, I do not have a special interest in 2 or 3 projects. I have a commitment to the 200 to 300 issues that come up all year long every year. Our municipal election needs to deal with the issues that the PAW is facing. Our major employer had a huge tax break last year due to a reassessment. A provincial agreement of RCMP policing had a huge increase in costs to our taxpayers. The provincial government is funding a multi-million-dollar upgrade to their airport at Grace Lake in direct competition to the town-owned airport at Clearwater that is now suffering a deficit. We have a gas tax reserve fund for infrastructure sitting, waiting for the federal government to open their purse strings in matching dollars. Flin Flon is getting a $20 million emergency room. Cranberry Portage got a $20 million new school upgrade. The PAW, $150,000 for gravel on Centennial Avenue. We are not getting our fair share. This municipal election is not the only election citizens need to make all the needs of our community known. Prepare for both the provincial and federal elections and grill their candidates as hard as the local election. The PAW needs a good, strong council to deal with all the issues and needs to put more pressure on the lack of support we receive from both the provincial and federal governments. Thank you, Ken Gerba. Crystal Morris.
Good evening, everyone. I just would like to thank everyone for coming out. It's really encouraging to see so many faces out here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in the PAW. I lived here for most of my life. I left for a few years to go to high school and some post-secondary education, and then came back. When I came back, I honestly never thought that I would stay, and then the longer I stayed, the more I grew to love it. And one of the reasons that I decided that I wanted to run for council was because I do love this community so much, and I see a lot of the potential that we have, and I envision great and wonderful things for us, and I think that with a solid team on council that we can accomplish those things. I think one of the biggest issues that I hear is that the community feels like there's a lack of communication or a breakdown or a barrier of communication between the town and the actual community. For those of you who don't know, I work as the executive director for the PAW Community Renewal Corporation, so I think that that is a huge asset would be a huge asset to me on council, because I do have a good relationship with the community and with a lot of different sectors and organizations in the community. I think that one of the things that the new council needs to do is that there is a lot of people who want things like skate parks and spray parks, and that there's some miscommunications about what the people who are raising or trying to build the skate parks and spray parks actually want. It's not that we want hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. It's that we need some land, or maybe we need a letter of support. So I think one of the things the new council should do, or would be wise to do, would be to support those groups and to support them as much as they can. Like, we're in a financial crisis, so we don't have money to build a new skate park, but there's grants and there's money available out there, and I think that the people sitting at this table, I think, would make a really good team, and would be able to do those things, would be able to support those groups and to bring some of that money to the community. In my work, I do write grants. I do get a lot of information about grants that are available. Oh, sorry.
The candidates for mayor of the town of the PAW will each receive 3 minutes. We'll start with Terry Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me in the back? That's good. It's one thing to say nothing, but if they can't hear me say it, that's another thing. I feel honored tonight to stand here and be among these people here who are going to hopefully devote their time and energy away from home, away from their family, making the PAW a better place to live. I look out in the audience and I see many people who did that for many, many years. As mayor, school trustee, counselor, Reeve, and you make a decision, and your family has to realize that you're going to be gone for many hours and come home, and the phone's going to ring any hour. But I decided to run for mayor not because it was going to be an easy job, but it's going to be a tough job, you know. When I came to the PAW in '71, it was for 3 months. I lived in northern BC. My family, my 4 siblings were there, and I just wanted to come for 3 months and get back to BC. After 41 years, I think I'm in my 2nd month, because I really love the PAW. I mentioned last week on the radio that my first day at the pulp mill site with the engineering company that employed me, I met a young woman, fell in love, and then in the next couple of weeks I fell in love with the paw. How many people have ever went fishing with Bob Mushrush at Evergreen Lodge? He took me out for a lake trout one night, and it just grew on me, and so the paw has been my home. My work has taken me all over Western Canada. You know, I came here with an engineering company, and when I left the first time, I'd been the assistant construction manager, and then my boss got sick. I was a construction manager. We got startup of the pulp mill, the sawmill, the planing mill, and but one afternoon, a young man that worked for me, Wayne Lebrecht, lost half his hand in the planing mill, and my boss at the time said it couldn't happen, nicer guy, and the phone had been ringing, and I took 1 or 2 offers, Dominion Bridge, and I spent 5 years with them, and the last 3 years at the Longsfoots Hydroelectric Dam. It was the best job of my life until I started my own company. And I came back here and incorporated, and until REPAP moved into the picture, I think I repaired every boiler, built the hog reclaim system. I did some 40-odd shutdowns. I always had a crew of every trade out there. But here in the paw, I set down roots. I became a volunteer firefighter. And I wanted to become a school trustee. My grandfather in Alberta, John Alexander, in 1918, it wasn't called Ebola, it was called the Spanish flu. And my 3 minutes is up, and I just got started. But ask me questions later, and thank you.
Jim Scott.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Scott. For those of you who don't know me, I am the communications director at University College of the North. So I think that's a strong suit that I bring to the table if I'm so lucky to be your mayor. When I talk about communications, we didn't do a very good job at communicating with you. We don't seem to. We all have these little phones, and we don't know how to communicate. We were in an absolute crisis mode. Water mains were breaking about every 4 or 5 inches on a fairly regular basis, and yet we weren't telling you. You were calling us and saying, when are you going to clear my sidewalk? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And we weren't communicating with you. Once we figured out how to communicate with you, hey, I get it, I understand, all of a sudden there was lots of sympathy, lots of understanding why these guys are working as hard as they are, the troubles that we were in. So communication is really, really important. If you know what we're doing and we're letting you know what's going on, I think everything can go a lot smoother. I'm not so sure it's a financial crisis we're in. We're in a bit of a mess for sure, but we need to figure out how to do that. So I also want to talk about taxation. Hopefully we get a good chance to talk about taxation tonight. People will tell you that we need to broaden our tax base, but it's going in the opposite direction. So that plan isn't working. We've got to figure some way in order to fix this. I think we need to get some smart people together. I've said since the day I said I'm going to run for mayor that on day one I'm going to form a committee, and it's going to be on taxation, and they're going to have to answer back real quickly. We need to find out what's going on. Are we going to get out of this in a week or two? Probably not. Are we going to get out of it in maybe a year or two? Probably. There's lots of great people, lots of great smart people. Let's tap into their resources. Let's work together. So I want to do that. I hope we get a chance to talk about that. I also think that we need to take the assessment branch to task. I don't think they're doing their job. They're the ones that determine the assessment value of your property and of your buildings, and it's just in a real mess, and that needs to get fixed. The province said that they were going to have the assessment branch have new assessments every 24 months to make things just level, and that hasn't happened. They're 4 or 5 years behind. I'm really worried I'm going to run out of my 3 minutes. Imagine that. So I also want to talk about change. People seem to be worried about having some change. We're going to have change. There's 7 positions that are open. 4 of them are going to be brand new. That's a lot of change. So don't be afraid if there's 5 changes or 6 changes or 7 changes. Don't be worried about that. I hope tonight we get a chance to talk about the accommodation fee and the Community Development Corporation. I promise you that I'll listen to you. I promise you that we're going to talk about recreation. We're going to figure things out. I don't know why. I mean, I sat on council for 4 years. 2 years, I will tell you I was a rookie, and I'm going, okay. And then, you start thinking, well, maybe it's not okay. So if Spray Park and Splash Park and all those other recreational items are coming forward, let's just talk about those things. I'm sure we can find those answers. So my time is up, but I hope to answer some of your questions tonight. I just think change is okay.
Alan McLaughlin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 4 years ago, I stood here and I had a vision. And that vision was change, and we put that change into place. And then when we sat in the mayor's chair and Jim and Andrew in the councillor's chair, we ran head-on into reality. We ran into pipes that were falling apart, we ran into high taxes, we ran into a number of things. And we have to work on those, and we've got a good foundation in place, and we have to build on that foundation. Jim talked about flattening our tax base. Our tax base is there. It hasn't changed for years. We need to get more industry in, and that's what our CDC is doing. They're working on bringing businesses in. They're working on bringing industry in. I sat yesterday with an investor when I was in Winnipeg. He had no idea what the PAW was all about. He now knows what the PAW is all about, and he wants to come up here and invest. And I can sit here, you don't have to believe me on that, but I can tell you that's exactly the truth. So there's lots of opportunities for us out there, and right now it's because we've sat that foundation. We've put that foundation down, and we need to keep doing that. The one thing that has been talked about is what my job as mayor is. Jim and Andrew and Ken have a job to do as a councillor. They sit there on a daily basis and discuss issues and bring it back to committee of the whole where we all get a chance at them. But as mayor, I only have one vote. But my job is to go out and promote the community. And that is one job that I've been very, very happy to do, is go out there. And we all know, I talked at the seniors the other day about the CBC reporter that came up here years ago, and then at Trappers Festival, and then slammed the PAW when they went back. Tomorrow morning, I have an interview on CJOB. They want to talk to people from the PAW now. And yesterday, when we were at the hub down in Winnipeg, Centralia, Chuck Davison, the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, put an issue out to all the businesses that were in the room to come north and see what the north has to offer. So we're getting our view out there. Had we not gone down to Winnipeg, you know who was there? The mayor of Thompson. And all those businesses would have gone up to Thompson rather than over here to the PAW and take a look at us. So everyone's starting to see us, and that's what my job as mayor is to promote our community. And I hope to be able to continue that in the next 4 years because we have a great foundation. We've got the Reeve who's working exactly the way, in partnership with us. We've got the chief that's working in partnership with us. We signed the Friendship Accord, which is working for us. So we're all finally working together on the same page. We're no longer siloed. And that is very, very important. So hopefully we'll build on that foundation in the next 4 years, and hopefully we've got your support. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Tonight there have been some questions submitted to the editor of the Opasquia Times, and I have those with me. We'll also open up the floor. If you'd like to bring a question to council or council nominees, or also those vying for the position of mayor, you can step forward, and let's not just bottleneck here. Let's try to keep it to a 2 to 3 maximum at the lineup, because we'll try to switch back and forth for some of the questions that were handed in as well. So if you'd like to come up and maybe keep 2 or 3 people behind me to start things. I will begin with a question that was submitted to the paper, and that question is, Kelsey Recreation Commission is given a budget of $1.4 million with both of its main facilities, the multiplex and Winton Pool. The multiplex and pool accounting for $950,000 alone, both taking huge losses, which is understandable to a certain point when membership at the Wellness Center is down 208 members per month on average from 2013. Keep in mind, their budget was increased from 2013 by $102,000. Where other groups are gaining members and growing in demand, are we given nothing? Is it because we aren't programs operated by KRC? There are many programs and groups in town that are 100% recreation and are completely ignored when it comes to financial support and investment, even when they've been approached either at the KRC or council level. What is your plan if you are elected to balance funding and having some accountability to certain areas money is being spent on? And that is a question that's open to all here tonight. So we'll start with the mayoral table, and we'll start with Terry Hendrickson, and we'll work our way down. And if you don't have an answer or would not like to answer the question, you can just move the mic over.
Okay. I was asked what is your number one priority as mayor, and it became very obvious when you read the local paper and the free press, and they say DePaul pays the highest taxes in town, and then you open up your tax bill from the town of DePaul and taxes have jumped. You know, if I asked everybody how much did your tax jump, was it 500 or 600 or 700, I get it back. They say, hey, I can't believe it, you know. What are you going to do? And then a guy 90 years old called me up and said, Terry, have you got a piece of paper and a pencil? And he said, write this down. I said, tell you what, put the coffee pot on. I'll come and see you. And he wrote out something for a guy 90 years old who lives at home and drives his own car. Taxes, poor management. As the Free Press said, it's not so much that the taxpayers aren't paying the right amount of taxes. They've been squandered. They haven't been spent properly. So I think that to give the proper amount of money to all the groups in Nepal that want it, you know, recreation, health, name it, we got to get our tax base in better shape so we can afford to fund it. You know, that's going to be job one.
Thanks, Terry. I think the question is why are some groups getting funding and why are some groups not getting funding for recreation? The one thing that Kelsey Rec is working on is a master plan for recreation for the community, and I've talked about that before. It's very, very important and I think maybe if that's the one lesson that I've learned after the past 4 years is that we need to plan better. So Kelsey Rec has sat down over the summer and is continuing to sit down over the summer and work on a master plan for recreation. If we don't have that, then we're going to have pieces of recreation here. We're just not going to do things that are right. So Kelsey Rec is working on it. Why some groups don't get funding and others, again, you know, our job is infrastructure to keep that water running and the sewer running. And roads, but we do need recreation because that's why people are attracted to. But there's just it's tight for cash right now. So, thank you.
Yeah. So let's just keep planning, but in the meantime, let's do something. Let's take some of this money that we're getting that we're not going to you for. We haven't asked you for 5 cents. We're getting $233,000 a year from Hydro Bipole 3 money. Let's use some of that money. We're taxing everybody who stays in our hotels 5% on their room rate. Let's use some of that recreation. Let's do something now. Not for the people who are going to move here in a year or 2 or 5 years. Let's do something for the people who live here now. Let's do something for them. So let's use some of that money to do that. It may be the ball diamond folks are going to come and say, you know what, we would like to have 2 brand new ball diamonds. Well, holy cow, that's maybe $500,000. But if we can take some of that money and say, we'll commit that money to you over a 4 or 5 year period, well, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can put ball diamonds and put lights up and have tournaments, and they can stay in the hotels and eat in the restaurants and go to the stores and do all those great things that make a community strong. This is for you folks. It's not to say let's plan on it. We've been planning a long time. It's time to do something.
I sit on KRC. I've been sitting there for 3 of the 4 years that I've been on council, and there are, I believe, 10 board members, one from UCN, one from the RHA, a councillor from the RM, two councillors from the town of one councillor from the town of the Pas, 2 students, 2 RM citizens at large, and 2 town of the Pas citizens at large. Every year they've come to us with a budget, and it includes capital expenditures for a shed to store their soccer gear, because they have a lot of it, and soccer's big in the summertime. And every year we've cut that from their budget, forced them to cut it. They come with a plan. The talk is that there isn't a plan. There's always a plan. It's the budget. And KRC's budget every year includes capital expenses like that, and when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the budget, those things get cut. There is a plan. KRC's mandate is programming. The user groups that are wanting different kinds of recreation need to engage KRC, and KRC will do their best to make sure we can include those things.
Thank you, Andrew. I think with regard to recreation, we have to make sure that KRC is maintaining what we have and putting it to good use. One of the questions I've always wondered about is what kind of an operation do we have if you have a meeting once a year and divvy up the use of your property simply to user groups and then say, okay, we're done. It's up to them. The community groups are going to run it for us and do the work. And unfortunately with that, arena, and why isn't somebody on the ice? Or you look at your soccer fields and whatnot, why aren't kids out there playing? We got baseball diamonds. Why aren't people going there when they're having a family reunion and playing ball or that sort of stuff and making use of it? Well, is it over-organized? Or are we creating barriers to people using it? I think what we have to do is let KRC do a good plan and give them the direction to do it for the will of the people, not just the groups, okay?
Okay, so there's been a few people who have talked about plans and that KRC has a plan, and personally, I'm a huge believer in plans. I think plans are a good thing, but plans are only a good thing if you have checks and balances and if you have measurements of success. So while, a recreation plan would be amazing, how are we gonna know if that plan is being carried out, and how are we gonna know if that plan is being successful? So I think that those are things that we need to think about when we're planning these things. Another thing that I think we need to do as a council is to rely on those amazing volunteers and groups in the community who are already doing those recreation things and to go to them for advice and support. One example is Sweatshop Boxing. Sweatshop Boxing is busting at the seams. They have classes every day, multiple times a day for different age groups because it's so popular. And so obviously the people who are running that are successful people in recreation. And so we need to rely on those people, those assets, those people who are fundraising and who are willing to do those things for our community, and we need to give them our full support.
As I mentioned before, the wellness center and the pool, I think, are gems for our community, but they also come with a large cost, so there's a lot of fixed costs involved with that. So the difference between what they cost and other properties is going to be quite vast. But that being said, I mentioned coming up with a recreation hub plan, and that includes volunteer groups, as Crystal mentioned, and also with service groups. Because I think the question itself is alluding to the ball diamonds and the shape of the ball diamonds now. They've had a huge explosion in popularity, which is great, and I think we need to support them, right? And I think their ask at the same time isn't for millions of dollars. They want their fields fixed up, they want bleachers repaired, and that's certainly doable, right? But it goes back to communicating that with the groups. And I think at the bottom of this is that we're not going out and reaching out to these groups and asking what they really need to get things done. Because there seems to be this illusion that, they're asking for millions of dollars, and I don't think they are. So part of this plan, as I'd call it, is that we sit down with these groups and hear what they really need. And like I said, we have 2 great anchor tenants, and let's fill everything else in.
When I look at recreation in the PAW, there's more than just KRC. There's all the individual user groups that are not affiliated with KRC at all. And what I think needs to happen is everybody needs to come together and sit down and talk about where this money needs to go, and where it can be best utilized. The ball club, or the softball association, I guess, is huge. There's, I don't know, 400 or 500 people that are playing baseball, and what money are they getting from the town? None, basically. And they need help. The ball diamonds are in terrible shape. They were promised a new diamond when Arena 2 was taken away for the wellness center, and they've gotten nothing. They talk about these plans, these master plans. Master plans are great, but when nobody's involved in the discussions of these master plans, other than the people that are on the board, the public needs to be involved, because that's the voice of the community. So.
I don't know if I like being the last one, but anyways, I agree with Crystal. Sweatshop Boxing, I am a member of Sweatshop Boxing, and yes, they are busting at the seams. They have the karate, I do boxing, they have Zumba. Why the 2 can't go together? Maybe there's something in there that the 2 can work together and flourish there. I go to the wellness center, I walk around the track, I do the weight machines. I think if every person here would just take 3 days a week and say, I'm going to do this, you know what? Pay your $5, pay your $10, pay your $40 a month. It's nothing. But that $40 will go to get higher and higher and higher, and you feel good, you look great, and everybody's happy.
Okay, a couple of things that I didn't announce before we started the open question period. For the candidates, you'll each be given 1 minute to answer your question. You cannot call on people from the audience for assistance in answering, and you can only address the person asking the question or the crowd in general. Audience members, keep all questions or comments civil. Only those who come to the microphone can submit a question. Anyone being disruptive will be asked to leave. Please direct questions to no more than 2 council candidates or all mayoral candidates. Addressing a question to all the candidates will be time-consuming for everyone to answer. 2-part questions will be permitted, but you must indicate it is a 2-part question before you ask. So if anybody has any questions and want to come forward, you can do that now. The next question submitted to the Opasquia Times. This is just the mayoral candidates. What do you propose to do to make town council actions more transparent? Start with Jim Scott.
Well, I think one of the problems is that people don't fully understand the process. And maybe it's broken and maybe it needs to get fixed. But what happens is you have an issue with town, so you send a letter in. And then that letter goes to a committee, and then that committee discusses it, and then it comes to committee the whole, and then the entire council discusses it. That's where they decide what they're going to do. And then people come out on a Wednesday, they come to a council meeting, and all we do is raise our hands. That's it. That's all. Thanks for coming out. There's our 10 minutes. Have a nice night. Bye-bye. So maybe we need to change that process around. Maybe there needs to be more involvement. I'm a big believer in using the people in our community. I think if you have an issue and you do come to council, that you should be heard. A couple of weeks ago, someone came to council and was reminded about 6 times before he got to speak that we were not responsible to answer his question. I couldn't believe it. Of course we're going to answer your question. And if we can't answer it there, we'll find out someone who can answer that. But you need to feel welcome. You need to feel welcome.
Jim's correct in the process that happens with issues. The question was, what are we going to do about it? I think what we've done is we've really done a good job on starting to communicate. With our website is now up and running. We never had a website that was running before that people can go in there and get access to information. So that was a huge thing that we did. I think the one thing that we need to do that we didn't do was have scheduled committee meetings, because that's where the first issue is. And Jim's right. When it comes to council, we've already discussed it 3 or 4 times, and all we do is raise our hands or not raise our hands. So I think it's important, and that's one thing that I would like to see, is that we have scheduled committee meetings. So when you have an issue, you know it's coming to planning and development on Tuesday at noon, and that you can plan your time around. So that was the one thing that I would like to see changed.
Thank you, Al. I guess I've been already changed things a bit, not for the better, for the worse. On February 18th of this year, I appeared in front of council and I spoke for an hour, and I was somewhat upset with what I saw wrong in this town. And I talked about everything: taxation, building, funding, and it was recorded on CD, and all the local paper reported was that I was demanding to get paid for building the Paul Curling Club. So I was kind of upset. So after that meeting, council voted that if you go to a council meeting, you got to give 96 hours preparation, and then you can only speak for 15 minutes. That's going to change. People can talk until the cows come home if I'm elected mayor. That council chamber has to be changed. There's no air circulation. The lights burned out. There's no chairs for people to sit down. We need chairs around the back. There was a guy with one leg who stood for 2 hours at the last council meeting. So people are going to come and we're going to listen to them, and it's going to be the place where democracy takes care.
Sorry, I don't have my heels on today. Thank you for taking the time to take questions from the public. As you know, I'm the principal of Mary Duncan School, and last Sunday, early in the morning, our school suffered its 2nd arson in this community. That was the last thing the PAW needed. We have enough challenges. We have homelessness, we have crime, we have vandalism, we have public intoxication. We have a lot of problems. But we also have the ear of the province right now like we have never had before. What is your plan for active, engaged community mobilization that is going to pick us up from these challenges and take us forward, including the youth of this community? And where do you see this plan 5 years from tonight? Thanks.
And that question is directed at everybody here tonight, so we'll let Margaret go first this time because she doesn't want to go last.
Thank you. Well, Tara, I have to agree with you. It was devastating what happened to the school. It hurt everybody. Okay, as a topic of what we have in our downtown streets, I've said before, I do not like the liquor store. I'm not saying I'm not against the people that run the liquor store or whatever. I just don't think it should have been there. It hurt every person here in this room. It hurt me, and I know it's hurt other people. I can say maybe this is self-serving that I'm standing here and saying this, but I started in my nice little business with my daughter, and I had people coming down there, and then all of a sudden the liquor store got put there, and people quit coming downtown. Our downtown, we have a little small community. It's nice, pretty little downtown. I'm not against the homeless people. Okay, I'm done. Thanks, Mark. I'll go on later.
Thanks for the question, Tara. Yeah, we've got some big problems when it comes to vandalism, homelessness, arson. It's tough. Like, to know what to do in that situation, it's tough. But I think what needs to happen is some more community involvement. I think that more people need to get together and try and I guess voice their concerns and come together and come up with some plans. I find that the police are maybe lacking in our town, and we could probably use some more cops. Not that I want any more tickets, but we need a bigger police presence in our town, especially at night. And to say I can come up with a plan in a minute for 5 years down the road, it's pretty tough. But it's something that I think the whole town, a lot of community members need to come together and look at and come up with some better plans than what's going on right now, because we've got issues. So.
Thanks. I think to further to what Tara was asking, we have the year of the province right now, and I think the focus should be on education. We have a lot of young people in town, and if you look at our economy, one of our strengths, one of the assets we have is all the education facilities we have. So I think we need to build on that, and if we're approaching the government, that's what we should be stressing. Because we look at a lot of these social ills, to me, and I guess I'm a product of that too, right? I grew up and I had a family that really stressed education, even though they didn't have that luxury, right? So, I mean, it pays off, right? So it's a change in attitude, but I think if we're going to go forward and ask the government for something, and I think that's what the question was, that we need to stress that we need more education, we need more support for that.
Again, like Al said, and Tara said, we do have the province in our ear right now, and I think one of the important things is that the only time the province really hears about us like that is when something bad happens, and that needs to change, because how much is the province going to want to support us, or how much are people outside of the POG going to believe in us and want to support us when all they hear is about the bad things that happen here? So I think that part of the I guess, strategy is to kind of reverse that, and so that it's not just about the arson, but what about the fact that the community banded together so quickly to help the school and to help the students and the daycare and the adult students. And the other thing is that it's not just a police or a crime issue. We need to be proactive and not reactive. So we need to be supporting the programs and services for the youth that keep them out of the streets and give them positive things and healthy things to do. That's my time. But yeah, we need a multifaceted approach. It's not just a police or a crime issue.
Thank you. I think the issue of mobilization is something that people have to pick up and run with. You can't push a rope. You have to, if people want to get mobilized, they will get mobilized. If they wish to protect their neighborhood, they're going to get out and use it. I think when we have people in the streets enjoying our community and doing things, then those people we don't wish to be there probably won't. It makes it difficult for some of us that are older, yes. But those of you that are younger, why not? You know, we drive everywhere. We don't walk anywhere. Maybe some of those things would benefit in more ways, because this whole issue of vandalism, and it takes a huge fire and a terrible disaster that's affected a lot of students and staff and everything. And fix that tonight. The issue really comes back to, what are our kids doing? The people that got us into this problem, the people that committed the crime, why? If we can understand the why, we can solve the problem. Thank you.
I think the root cause of the fire, of the arson, is a social problem. We have some social problems in our community. I think that the province of Manitoba needs to do more to strengthen programming for those kinds of problems, whether it be youth and vandalism or homelessness related to mental illness or alcoholism or addiction. But my primary concern as a taxpayer is how the school division and the province are going to handle the loss of a facility. A new building and school to house those students is going to be upwards of $15 million, I'm sure. And as a taxpayer, your taxes, you look at your property tax bill, you'll see a school division portion on there, and it's significant. And I would want us to engage the province and make sure that they don't simply download the work required for the replacement of that school to our municipal taxpayers to make that change.
I hope that's not true. It is a big issue. Well, I hope they don't offload down to the taxpayer. It is a huge issue. So it's a social issue. It's a policing issue. It's a combination of both. If you say it's a social issue, then the police, they can back away. If you say it's a policing issue, then the social people, they can back away. I was out in a police car, a couple of them from 10:30 at night till 2 in the morning a couple of weeks ago. Big eye opener. Up until 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 4 people patrolling the Arm of Kelsey, the Town of the Paw, and OCN. At 2 o'clock, that goes down to 2 people. You think they got time to worry about all those little things? I don't think so, because they're busy pulling someone out of a ditch or walking down the street, taking them off to jail, getting them into the jail, doing all of the paperwork, and then getting in the car and going out and getting the next drunk. Figure out how we're going to tackle this. It's a two-pronged effort. It's social and it's policing, but at some point someone needs to take the lead on that. And I wish I had a better answer.
Thanks, Jim. I was in a police car for 26 and a half years. It's interesting, Tara, the words that you use, because it was community mobilization. I see your question as 2 parts. The first thing is that community mobilization. And there's a program out in Prince Albert. It came over from Scotland, and it's called community mobilization. And what it's done in Prince Albert is reduced the crime by 35%. 2 years ago, we brought the sergeant over from Prince Albert, and he sat and he talked to us about this community mobilization. There was a number of people that were at that meeting. Right after that, I went to Winnipeg and I sat with Andrew Swan, the Attorney General, and said, we want community mobilization to come to the PAW, and we want you to pay for it. And he sent it to the north end of Winnipeg. So then I went down and said, well, we want it to the PAW, so we want it next after you're finished in Winnipeg, and he's sending it to Thompson. So hopefully we're going to get a third. But the other thing is that you're talking about, Tara, is engagement of the province. And that's what we need to do, is engage the province. And I'm having a meeting tomorrow with the Premier at 9 o'clock. If there's anything you want me to ask him, tell me tonight.
I want to thank all of you for speaking from the heart. There's one thing happened to Sandy Hook, and 26 elementary kids were killed, and the principal, 100-pound principal, ran at the gunman trying to stop the bullets through a hand. That's one part of what I really want to get at the PAW, is that we have to make our schools safe. Not the night people now that wander around and they want $1 or $5 to buy a bottle of Jordan wine, and they cost us, but it's nothing like what happened at Sandy Hook. When I was a school trustee for 7 years, I remember telling the school trustees that The architect who designed MBCI had a nightmare and got most of it down on paper when he woke up. But now I think that's a really good school because it's hard to get into. The windows are high up. If we had security cameras at every school, and if we take these citizens on patrol that volunteer their time, and we had video cameras so that whatever goes on is recorded, it's a big step, and I'm out of town. But ask me that question later, I'll continue.
And one of the things that came up during our interaction with the youth was responsible cell phone usage. And when we were talking to the kids, we had to try to explain to them what proper cell phone usage is and how to tackle cyberbullying. So the question is how do you think we can stem cyberbullying? How do we prevent it, and how do we eliminate it, basically?
That's it. And we'll split down the middle and we'll work out this time. We'll start with Crystal Morris and then work towards the end, and then we'll come back and work this way.
I can't even, like, that question totally threw me for a loop. One thing that I do in my job actually every year is that we do Tickled Pink Day. It's an anti-bullying day. So I'm thinking that that's totally something that we could maybe incorporate into that day. The town does a proclamation every year for anti-bullying day. So it is like a town proclaimed day. We do go into the schools. Yeah, that's kind of my answer for you, is that I would use that pre-existing event to educate, because I think education is one of the keys to prevention. I don't know which way it's going.
Thanks again. I agree that we need more awareness around cyberbullying, but also back to recreation. I think we need more barrier-free recreation in town. So again, outdoor parks are, I mean, I've lived here 10 years and I can't remember too many times we've had an outdoor hockey rink. So things like that. I don't know how you solve the cyberbullying, but to me, it's to get kids off cell phones, right? So they need some more opportunities, and I think through recreation we can solve, or at least lessen some of that impact.
Thanks for the question. Cyberbullying, I guess, it's a huge issue everywhere, and to take it on as Town Council of the Paw, Manitoba, as our cross to bear is a little bit tough. But I think what can be done is more education in the schools and working with the kids and getting the information out to the kids about, you know, what cyberbullying is and how to recognize it and how to deal with it. Education, inform the kids, and take it from there. That's the best way of going about it.
Okay, you're talking to somebody that doesn't even have a cell phone? Yeah, I'm going to have to say, you know, our teachers are overloaded as it is, but maybe they need a course on cell phones. You know, there has to be rules. If you're in a classroom, no cell phones. This is how you use cell phones. That's a really loaded question. The bullying, you know, there's bullying every day. Cell phones just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit easier for the bullies to do it. Okay, I can bully this person, whatever. My answer is, yeah, put a course in school classes, and for maybe parents, you know, maybe we have to cross the line a little bit and be parents and say, this is not allowed on our phones.
Brian.
Thank you. Regarding bullying, it's a problem that's been around long before cell phones, and that's an issue that wasn't solved before, and it's not going to be solved easily after. With regard to cyberbullying, let's use the technology. Why don't we figure out, hey, let's talk to those people that have that problem directly by sending them a text. Talk to their parents. Find out how you can communicate directly with them. If you're going to educate them in the language they understand. They understand texting. If you want to get a hold of a young person and get them to respond, you send them a text because they read it. If the phone beeped, they read it right away. So education is important, but how you get the message to them is more important, and demonstrating better ways to use their cell phone and better uses that can be made of it. And I think pushing information to them would be a surefire way of helping them.
LOL. Sorry. I think that bullying is bullying, whether it's cyber or in your face. And I get that there are intricacies there that I probably have never experienced because I didn't grow up with cell phones. But I think for me, when I think back to my youth, I found that kids involved in organized sports tended not to be engaged in bullying or antics of that nature that cause distress among children. And of course, organized sports primarily stem from schools. And I think that in the PA we have some pretty good school organized sports groups. I will say that one difference I note from my hometown, which was much smaller than the PA, is that here in school, once you reach a certain level, if your grades aren't quite far enough, you can't participate. And where I grew up, it didn't matter what your grades were, you could. And there are great life skills to be learned in organized sports.
So I think the more you know, the sooner you know it, the better you can react to it. So it really is an education thing. Cyberbullying is all the time, right? You just take a picture of someone and send it to your friend and say, she's so fat, and all of a sudden there's a bully thing going on, right? And then that gets sent, and that gets sent, and that gets sent, and then pretty soon, 150 people know something in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. That's the world we live in. We all have our phones with them. Some of them are out on the tables. They're either in our hips or in our purses or somewhere. We all have them. And so, you really need to be educated on these things. I have been bullied most of my life, and I'm okay with that. I figured out how to move on from that. But I'm telling you, if you have a low self-esteem, it's going to cause nothing but problems in your life. There's nothing but problems. So you need to recognize those things and deal with them, and deal with them quickly. Don't let other people tell you how to run your life. It's your life. And so, there goes my time. Anyway, so...
I don't know if you've watched the news in the last 2 days, but there was a young girl out in, I believe it was Alberta or BC, that was bullied. And what she did was she started the Post-it campaign. Did anybody see that? And then it went viral. And the whole community, it was in Airdrie, Alberta. And the whole community went behind her. And the town council passed a resolution about an anti-bullying day, similar to what we have already. I'm very proud that our town council was the first one in Manitoba to pass a bylaw, an anti-bullying bylaw. And I'm very proud to look around this room, and just what you're talking about are up here on these posters. Every one of these posters. So I think it's really a multifaceted thing, and we need to have all the parties working together on it, including youth groups. But the most important one is parents. Parents have to be there for their kids, understand the technology, and make sure that they're using it appropriately.
Thank you, Al. Bullying has changed. When I was 5 in Alberta in grade 1, I got flattened in grade 1. First day of school, a kid walked up and nailed me in the stomach. And I could do the picture in my mind of what he looked like, the school behind me. Never told anybody. And my son had a problem. He'd come home all beaten up. Bunch of kids bigger than him, older grades. So I went to every parent and I said it was going to stop. And it stopped. But now you've got texting, you've got these, everybody's kids got a phone and it's private. They don't want to tell their parents what it's doing. So this texting and bullying over the airwaves is something that I'm not that up on texting and that, but I think if you tell somebody, if kids will say to their parents, this is what happened, you got to avoid this situation where girls take their lives because they're bullied and pictures are displayed. That's sickening. It's got to stop, and I'm out of time.
Just a quick question. I've lived here my whole life, and I've seen the PA go up and down in different directions. My biggest concern right now is industry, jobs. We can't create money in this community without jobs, without industry. We need to bring people into our community, and to me, if I was going to move to another community, it's for a job. How do you guys what are you going to find a way to bring more people to our community, more industry, more jobs?
And we'll start with Terry Henderson.
Jobs. That's the most important thing you can have. You know, everything in life is learned. And if you learn and you find what you want to do in life, I was told that if you do what you really like in life, you never have to work a day in your life. So jobs in the community, there's all the entry-level jobs, flipping burgers, and you go in there and some people make it a joy. They're happy because they're learning and they get bumped up. Every business wants people that really want to learn the business. You know, whether it's a car dealership or McDonald's or A&W, and they become supervisors. So we got to give that work ethic to say, get that first job, do it to the best of your ability, and that to get in, get these first jobs. Every parent wants their kid to get a job and bring home a few dollars, and once that child has a paycheck of his own, things take off. So you got to open the doors and to create these jobs. You know, the minimum wage is going up, and that's denying some people jobs because the employer doesn't want to pay but it's a start.
Good question. And I think we've done what we're going to be doing, and that's bring the CDC in. The CDC is a really important tool for us. It's our business development arm, and they're doing a heck of a good job. There's a lot of things that they can't talk about because business is business. I mean, you can't talk about business, you're letting away your plan, and you can't do that. So I think that's the important thing. The other important thing is what Al Gibb was talking about, and that's education, making sure that people have training for the jobs that are there. And the last thing is just awareness. Let people know that we're open for business. Let people know that we're here. There's people that don't know where the PAW is and what we've got. So we need to get that awareness out to people outside of our community, outside of our province, and outside of our country. And I think all the players are in place right now just to do that. So I think you're going to see great things in the next few years. Thank you.
So I don't know how we can say that CDC is doing a good job, attaboy, way to go, when they haven't done anything. That's the problem I have with it. I just want them to do something. I want them to answer the questions. If people come to you and say, hey, could you please tell me what your financial plan is? Could you please tell me what your financial situation is? I think you should be held accountable and answer those questions. They've been asked and asked and asked. They haven't answered. They've given away $21,000 out of the $200,000 they've been given without any direction of what their big plans are to create jobs. So it is important to get jobs, and as many jobs as we can, but I think we have to think beyond just bringing another industry into our community. I think we have to look at a community strategy, that if Suncor can figure a way to fill up a 737 in Gander, Newfoundland, and fly them all the way to Fort McMurray to go to work, that we could find a way to get them to go on a bus from the PAW up to Snow Lake. Just today, the Premier of the province is in the PAW, Manitoba, and he says in the next 25 years, there's going to be a creation of 75,000 jobs. That's a lot of people. Why can't some of those people live here and work elsewhere? That's one thing we could look at, plus we can look at industry.
I agree with Al. I think the CDC is an important tool to creating jobs in a community and attracting business. I also think that the town of the PAW is positioned well as an entity that can provide municipal services to the surrounding areas, and I think that's an area that we have to expand on and grow. The regional waste disposal ground has been on in the newspapers for the last few years. It's a major undertaking, and we're taking our time to make sure that it gets done right. But I think that's just a very small portion of an example of one of the things that can be done. We can provide services to our surrounding areas that can provide jobs for people in our community and attract people to come here.
I think with regard to this, Andrew, congratulations. I think with regard to this, what we really need to do is consider what others see when they look at our community to be a place to open a business, to be a place to live, to be a place to drive around. Think of that for a moment. What's the image you have in your mind? Well, imagine you're 500 miles away and somebody thinks you should move here, should open up a business here. Can they handle it? Can they give you the service you need? Can they fix the roads so that they're drivable? If you're in a heavy truck business, how are you going to handle it? Are we going to have more potholes? What we need to do is work on our infrastructure and create an environment where we have an environment of change where people actually believe it's happening. They see it happening around them. They see the roads getting fixed. They see their sewers and water lines being repaired. We bother to tell them that we've done it and show them and let them know. And if we can do that, then the businesses will come. But we're not ready yet, and I think that's the biggest problem.
I have to agree with a lot of what Brian said about not being ready yet. I mentioned when Tara had her question about the school, is that what do people think of when they think of the PAW? And if they're going on Facebook or on the internet or reading the free press and all they hear is the negative things, are they really going to want to come here? So I think before we can get people to come here, we need to work on the image that we're putting out and to work on our infrastructure and what's going to keep them here. You know, we do have a beautiful wellness center, but what else can we offer them to keep them here, or to keep their family here? And one of the other things I think that I don't agree with is the CDC. I am a strong believer in community development. I work in the field of community development, but I believe that there's a right and a wrong way to do community development. And when you don't have interactions and conversations and communication with the community, I don't think that community development can be successful. And I believe that the way that this community development corporation has been set up is that it's been set up to fail. And if we want it to be successful, that there are changes that need to be made.
So in coming to the PAW 10 years ago, I realized quickly we were really good at two things, and it was a very different opinion than what other people had. We were great at providing health care, and we're great at providing education. So we have UCN, we have a host of public schools, and these are two services that are non-cyclical. That means that you have people going to school all the time. When times get bad, people even go to school more, right? So we have two strong industries in town, and we need to engage these industries about what they need to grow. I think we're too often chasing. It'd be great if Toko off in the sawmill. That'd be great for the town, be great for everyone, be booming. But we can't hang our hat on the hope that that's going to happen, right? So we have two major industries in town, and we need to realize that and engage them and say, hey, what do you guys need to grow? Because you're doing us a great service now, and let's move it forward. So when we talk about looking at jobs, I think we're a service provider. We could be the service provider for anyone north of 53, into Saskatchewan, as far as Thompson. And we have two great industries, and we need to ask them what it takes to flourish.
A lot of good points brought up about a lot of different things. I honestly don't feel that we're ready for new business right now. Well, not new business. We're not ready for a new industry. If a company came to town tomorrow and opened up or was looking to open up a company that was going to have 300 employees, where would they live? We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the housing. We're not set up for that. We need to grow slow. Slow growing right now is probably the best for us. New little businesses, and we can build our way up to industry. But for right now, we're just unfortunately not ready for it. But I agree with Al, what Al's saying. Like, UCN is huge. The amount of money that's been poured into UCN over the past 10 years, from when it was KCC to what it is now, it's crazy. And it's just getting bigger every year. They're adding more and more programs, and it's bringing more and more high-paying jobs into town and more people going to school here. So UCN's a great thing. So I don't know. I just think we need to grow slowly for right now and make our moves when we can.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about big business. I'm just going to talk about little business. And I think we just need a very positive picture about the PAW. Like we're always saying, there's a negative this, negative that. Let's always just stay positive, positive, positive. There are things in this town I don't like, and I tell people, but there's things in this town that I love, and I will keep being positive. And like my little shop here, it was a little dream I had. I did it. It's successful, and I'll keep on going. And we all don't have to be big, but a bunch of little people, we can all strive and all be happy. There you go.
This is a question for the new candidates that are coming on council. In an instance of time, if you want to pick two or three that want to answer the question, go ahead. The town council of the day has expressed some concern with residential development in the arm of Kelsey. In a really strongly worded letter, they vehemently opposed a residential subdivision that we're trying to move ahead, and suggesting that residential development in the RM hurts the town of the Pas, that it should all be done in the town of the Pas, that the RM of Kelsey may or may not pay enough for the services that we use, that we agreed to pay for. Also, that if the RM wishes to go ahead with residential development, maybe that property should be annexed by the town of the Pas, and they should do it. It certainly staples our growth. It doesn't lead to good relations, and I know the mayor spoke about signing of the Friendship Accord, where we agreed to work together to talk about our differences, to try to work on economic building, and that agreement was signed 2 weeks before the letter sent to the Arm of Kelsey about residential development. It was really disconcerting to us, and I guess my question then is, if elected, do you agree with that statement or that issue, or how do you feel about our relationship? I see us as two municipalities but working together.
And I'm going to ask three new-coming candidates to answer that question, and those three will be Brian Rock, Crystal Morris, and Alan Gibb, and we'll start with Brian Rock.
Wow, that's a really good question. I was driving when I heard the comments about it on the radio, and I almost hit the ditch. I was appalled that we don't get along with our neighbors. I said, why should we tear our neighbor down because they're making improvements and blame our problems on them? I think one of the problems of current council is they like to point the finger outside at everybody else, and they never do this. They never point to themselves and say, what can we do better? What are we doing wrong? Where do we need to go? When you get angry with your neighbors and you throw stones over the fence, guess what? Your windows get broken. Your doors get damaged. You have vandals in your yard. Don't do that. Be friends with everybody. Let's get along. There's 3 communities here. There's a big area district here. We're all part of it. Let's work together as a family. That's what we should be doing. The RM, I know, they're making progress. Hey, if they improved it, what if they started to build shopping malls and housing and a whole ball of wax? Then the town would be really in trouble, wouldn't it? So let's work together.
I want to reiterate what Brian says. I think that in order for the PAW to be successful, the RM of Kelsey and OCN need to also be successful, because really we're like one big giant community. I mean, there's boundary lines that separate us, but really if we're not successful, you guys aren't going to be successful, and vice versa. Again, reiterate what Brian said. When I heard that letter went to the RM, what I thought was, what a slap in the face to that Friendship Accord that I just saw in the newspaper. I can tell you that if I was on the council of the day, I would have voted totally against sending that letter. So to answer your question, I am not in support of that letter, and I would fully support the development in the RM of Kelsey.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that if we all pull together, we'll all pull ahead. And that goes for us as a community, but also our neighbors as well. I think by shutting up or putting up walls around us is not good for anyone. So we were just talking about developing services or industries, whether it happens in the RM or OCN or here, and whether that's housing or industry, it's good for all of us, right? Because if we put up these walls, no one's going to come to town. So we need to realize that, right? If they want to put housing in the RM, that would be great. If more people wanted to move to our area, they're still going to come to town and shop and buy groceries, right? Still need to buy gas somewhere. So we need to realize that and just not say, well, we don't want anything and we don't want the community to grow. We need people here to shop at the small businesses, big businesses, all our businesses, because they all reside in town. So I'm not in agreement with the letter either.
This question was submitted to the newspaper. The question relates to the ethicality of water fluoridation. Health Canada defines a drug as anything used to treat, mitigate, or prevent a disease, and cavities are considered a disease. So by Health Canada's definition, fluoridating the drinking water is the equivalent of medicating it with a drug. This question is addressed to all the candidates. In your personal opinion, is using the water as a vehicle to deliver medication to the masses, regardless of whether they consent to it or not, ethical? We'll start with Andrew Forward, we'll go through the councillors, and then we'll go with Jim Scott and to Terry.
Where's Kyle? There he is. Kyle and I have had some conversations about fluoridation, and I have small kids, and I know a lot about water treatment. And I don't disagree with Kyle's Fluoride Aware the PAW campaign. We fluoridate our water. We do it because the Canadian Dental Association and Health Canada recommend that we do so. It is not a requirement under regulation. Our system exists. It's set up to handle that. And at this point, I think if it can be done without costing taxpayers money to actually decommission the fluoridation system in the water treatment plant, because a water treatment plant is quite complex these days, lots of computers, lots of programming. If that can be done and not cost taxpayers money, then I'd be okay with removing fluoridation from our water supply.
Thank you. It's interesting that fluoridation is something that's been having a great part of my lifetime. It was done based on old science, good science in the day. Now the new science says, well, maybe that isn't the best idea, and maybe we're just pushing things that people we shouldn't be. The issue becomes is how is the council, with regard to that, going to get the information, get the data we need to know to make an informed decision? We can't just say, well, I think today that we should do this. So we have to go out, find out where the sources are, do that. If it's going to be something we want to change, then we have to get it to a committee that's going to do that work. Committees do the heavy lifting, and council just makes decisions based on good information. So if we can get that, we can take a serious look at it and make a decision in the future. But right today, I can't say one way or the other what we want to do. It's going to be up to council.
I will say that I am not in favor of putting fluoride in the water, but I understand where Andrew's coming from with, budgetary issues and stuff like that. I understand that there is a cost associated with fluoride, though, so I would think that we would take the cost associated with fluoride, figure out how much it's going to take to decommission the fluoride machine, and sorry, I didn't remember what the technical thing was called. So people knew what I meant when I said fluoride machine, though. But so let's outweigh the, weigh out the pros and cons. So for example, I believe the budget line was $15,000 to fluoride the water for the year. So I mean, if it's going to cost $15,000 to decommission the machine, let's decommission the machine, take out the fluoride, and then next year we can use the $15,000 for something else, like maybe the water for the spray park.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the cost benefits of removing it. I'm certainly not an expert in fluoridation, but it's something also that the community should be engaged in, how they feel as far as the subject. Do they want it removed or not? Because it seems to be the trend across North America where they're removing fluoride from their water systems, and if it's a benefit to us community cost-wise, then it's certainly something we should look at.
There's a reason it says on your toothpaste, not to swallow the toothpaste. Fluoride isn't actually good for you. And I agree that we should probably be removing it from our water. But definitely I think there's some public consultation that would have to happen, get everybody to sit down and see how everybody feels about it. But my personal belief is that we don't need it in our water, and we are just fine without it. So.
Okay, I agree on everything everybody says here. And I am reading the article. I am. So right now, I can't make an opinion one way or the other. As I said, research, and see what happens. Everybody has to agree on it. Like if the town doesn't want it, get it out. Okay.
Jim Scott.
Okay. So I now know more about fluoridation than I ever thought I ever would. I've drank fluoridated water all my life. And so recently, about 6 or 7 months ago, posters started showing up on campus about fluoride in the water. And I thought that was kind of political, so that's part of my job, so I took them down. And then I go back the next day and the posters are up. And I go, well, that's odd. And I take them down. And then sooner or later, I got to meet him, and he got to meet me, and we had a little discussion about fluoride. And his posters were fine to stay up after that. I did a lot of research on it. His question, though, is it ethical to medicate a community through their water supply system? No, that's not very ethical at all. That's a really nasty, terrible thing to do. But I don't know where I honestly stand on fluoridation because, like I say, it's been something I've been involved with all of my life. I think for every report that says, gee, this is really bad, there's a report that says, gee, this is really good. So I'm not sure where I stand on it. I know if we can save $12,000, $14,000, $15,000 a year, I don't want fluoride.
Can I say ditto? Is that possible? Kyle, you were this close. I can tell you during the discussions you were this close. And as Jim said, it was funny because every time we got a report that said it's bad, we got another one from a doctor that said it's good. And then we got another one from a doctor that said it's bad, and we got another one that said it was good. And I can tell you, you were this close. I am concerned with the health of the community. I am concerned that we have a problem with dental health in this community. And is it helping? I'm not sure. But all I can say is keep at it, and if we can find out that those scales will, go in your favor, then there's no problem. Go in your favor. But we do have to look at the health of the community as well.
Where would we be without medical science? My mother was an RN, and when polio was sweeping the prairies, she was the first one. I was the first in line to get a shot. They've got cures now for polio, for measles, and that. In 1918, my grandfather lost his wife, and she was expecting a son. So this is like Ebola now. And right now, they've found a cure for Ebola in Winnipeg. One American survived, the other one died yesterday. So I'm in favor of medical science. Fluoride, chloridation works. I'm in favor of it.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to address this question to anyone who's open to answer, but I'd like to hear more about the property taxes in the town of Opasquia. Being a homeowner in a newer area of town, my home has increased probably a couple $1,000s in the last 5 years living there. My question is, will they continue to rise year after year? Is there ever going to be a maximum? And what is your plan to help reduce them?
We'll start with Alan here.
I think we need to look at some responsible spending. There's been a lot of expenditures over the last 4 years, and with that goes added costs. So we need to get those costs under control. There's a lot of questionable spending that maybe shouldn't have happened, and now we're paying for that. So going forward, I think we got to toe the line and look at creative ways to finance some of our needs and wants. I mean, the cost of running our town is continually going up, right? But if we can manage that, then maybe we can look in the future to start bringing the taxes down. So, the cost of running the town is not going to go down tomorrow. It'll be the same as it is today. It'll actually increase, right? So we have a fixed amount of taxes, and now we got to look at what we're spending it at. So these lakefront lots that cost $180,000, maybe a questionable expense, right? So if you start going down the list, and when you talk to them, well, this was $30,000, that was $40,000. Maybe it's not a big deal, but when you add them all up, it is a big deal. So we need to start looking at how we're spending, and I think with a new group and a new perspectives on the council, we'll get to that point.
There's a couple of issues surrounding property taxes. I think one of the biggest ones is the assessments. People aren't paying their fair share. A town that's a house that's on Guymer and the exact same house across town are going to be paying way different taxes. And I think that's a big issue that definitely needs to be looked at and worked out with the assessment branch. The other issue is to reduce the taxes. It's tough to say where the taxes could be reduced or how they could be reduced right now. But I agree with Alan. There's a lot of expenses. Like I've gone through the financial statements and looked at them since 2008, and the expenses just are going up astronomically. And I feel like I'm not delving into individual accounts within the financial statements, but like there's got to be some expenses that could be cut. And I think that's probably job number one, is to have a look at where some money could be saved. And then not necessarily going to lower taxes, but better use of the taxes we're getting right now, and not have them keep rising.
As I said before, this is going to be a big learning curve, so I can't say anything on this subject. I can't say, oh, they're going to go down, they're going to go up, this is happening, that's happening, until I sit and look at everything, and the bills coming in, what has to be paid. I always say the sewer, the water, that has to be fixed first. And after that, let's go on after that.
Jim Scott.
Okay, so I mentioned it earlier. It took a long time to get into this mess, and it's going to take a while to get out of it. We just sat down a couple of weeks ago as a council, and we're scratching our heads about what are we going to do about our airport. It's just leaking money like crazy. What are we going to do about that? And so the manager of the airport came to our meeting and started to talk about ways that we could raise revenue at the airport that we hadn't realized before, and it was starting to amount to a fair sum of money. Was it going to stop the entire debt? No, but it was certainly a big help. So maybe what we need to do is turn over all of those stones in all of the departments that we operate. Is there spending that we probably shouldn't be doing? Maybe. I think we need to look at everything. It's why I said from day one that I want to form a committee on day one on taxation in this area. Get some really smart people together to determine how we're going to go through our tax system. How are we going to make this a little bit, okay, I'm getting cut off again. But anyway, keyword is how. How are we going to do it?
Thanks, Jim. I think I've stated pretty clear what I want to do, and that's flatten out the tax base. Get industry in, get more businesses in, get more taxpayers in. But the other thing that's really interesting about my job is I get to hang around with some really smart people. And one of those smart people is sitting in here. I can't point him out, but he's the Reeve over here. We spent 6 hours the other day driving to Winnipeg, and he was telling us something that they're going to be doing in the RM, and I'm very excited about that, and I'd like to bring that within the municipality. And what it is looking at each property, and Flin Flon tried to do this, but they tried to do it a different way, and we studied the Flin Flon model. But what it is each lot in town requires police protection and requires fire protection. So each lot gets a special levy on that. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a house on that lot or what you've got on that lot, you're still going to pay for that police protection. It's going to be a special levy, fire protection, and Mark's got his hand up, but you see the gist of it. And so what that does, it starts to flatten out the tax. So that's something that I'll be looking at first thing.
Terry.
Rod asked a good question, but I think I can throw it back at him a bit about taxes. You go to Tuscan Estates, oh, there's some beautiful homes out there. You know, it's just gorgeous. And I just asked myself, if they built within town limits, could they afford it? Could they afford the taxes? It's getting so you can build a beautiful home, you can afford a mortgage, but you can't afford the taxes in the PAW. If you know people live at Rocky Lake and Clearwater and out in the valley there, the PAW is like an oasis. In the morning, all the people come into the PAW to go to school. They go to the wellness center. They go to the Winton Pool. In fact, I got a copy of the tax bill here. And the three items, Wood Acres is offer back this year, but multiplex 2025 is when it's finally going to be paid. Wellness center 2025, Winton Pool 2028. The taxpayers of the PAW are paying for all this. Somehow, we need help to pay these taxes from everyone who's using it, and my time is up.
I think one of the things that isn't possible is bringing in the big industry and bringing in more taxpayers, really, because where would we put new taxpayers? There's no place really to build new development. So I think that we need to focus on what we have, and like Jim said, go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Where can we cut money from? Where are we spending money that we don't really need to spend? I wish I could promise you that your taxes are going to go down in the next 4 years, but I really can't. Personally, I need more knowledge on how the taxes work and how the assessments and all of that stuff work. So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to, relying on some of the smart people that are on around the table here that already have that knowledge. But I think that we need to put a plan into action, and that, we need to stop spending money that we don't have on things like, as beautiful as the wellness center is, like, we need to not spend money foolishly, if you will, on things like that.
Thank you. Taxes are important to all of us. I know in our area it's gone up 25% in the last 2 tax years, and that's only 14 months. That's a lot. What's the solution? Let's quit being a spend and tax town. Let's become a tax and spend town. That sounds simplistic, but let's figure out what our people can afford to pay in taxes, and then from there we'll determine what we will spend. Now, sometimes right now, because of our challenges, what we need to spend means your current taxes may not go down. But if you take that approach, then over time, you can reduce those taxes. The other thing with regard to taxes, I think, as was pointed out, people pay different levels and rates, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. We need to find a way to have a baseline tax that everybody pays, because you all drive on our streets, you all use our water and sewer, you all use that stuff. It doesn't matter whether you've got 50-foot frontage or 500. So let's try and find a way to balance that.
So yeah, I'm just going to echo a lot of the sentiment you've already heard, because there's not much else to say except that, our taxes are driven by mill rates and assessments. We control mill rates, province controls assessments, but at the end of the day, it is our expenditure that drives what your taxes are. And in the last budget year, we did our damnedest to make sure that we maintained our total expenditure at the level it was for 2013. We thought we had done that, and then the RCMP costs came in and kicked us $50,000 above where we were in 2013. So on a $6.7 million budget in the last year, we were able to move forward into this year with only a $50,000 increase and maintain the services we have, and develop some lake lots, and fund some entities that will hopefully drive revenue. And revenue is what needs to be driven so that we close the gap between expenses and revenue, and hopefully lower property taxes. But I think the reality is that at best we're going to be able to try and level things out, as Al points out, as opposed to overall lower expenditures.
Just spent the last 4 years of her life doing activist and academic anti-oppressive work. I was really undersatisfied with the responses for cyberbullying. So forgive me for my phone, but I wrote down my question. Sexism, racism, classism, and homophobia, etc. create bullying. Kids need to unlearn these harmful ideologies. Students can't be the only ones unlearning toxic socialization. Parents, family members need to as well. Look at the Facebook groups in the pod. Tons of middle-aged bullies. Adults in this town do not know how to use social media responsibly. So is it surprising that their children don't know how to use it either? What are you, as a counselor or mayor, willing to do in order to engage adults in the conversation? Specifically, what are you willing to do as an individual to educate yourself as well?
Let's start with Andrew Forward.
Well, that's going to be a difficult one for me, because I am not an avid social media user. I can admit that. I have a Facebook account. It has the picture on it that I put up 7 years ago when I created it. I have some friends that I maintain contact with once in a while, but I'm not a big follower of social media. And hence, I don't get bullied. I don't get cyberbullied. I don't tend to get upset with some of the things that are posted by people that are behaving irresponsibly. And I mean, again, at the root, whether it's social media or printed media or radio media, if somebody's behaving as a bully, they're behaving as a bully because they either haven't been taught or they choose to engage in that behavior because they're of that nature. And if somebody behaves to me that way in person, then I have nothing to do with them. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm not interested in what you have to say if you're being a bully. And that rationale should be able to be applied online as well as in other forms of media. So I would hope parents, teachers, role models can engage youth in learning how to deal with bullying, period, wherever it may be.
Cyberbullying is the result of technology. If we didn't have technology, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And technology is totally different than the face-to-face old way of doing things. So trying to control it and stop it is a challenge. The reality of bullying, part of that's depression. Part of that's how that information is received. Because not everybody would treat that, a comment or something said as being bullying. They may have a different reaction. But the other person that is depressed and has problems and has to deal with it and is all alone, how do we seek them out and give them support? That's a challenge. They have to speak up first, but that's where the family, the friends, the people closest to them can do the most good. What you can do from a distance, you can talk about it, you can give your well wishes, but it's not going to save that child simply by saying it.
I think one of the things we can do is lead by example. So, for example, I have a council page on Facebook. If somebody was on my council page and was bullying or, making inappropriate comments, I would immediately remove them and then message that person and let them know why I removed it. So to let them know that that's not something that I stand for and that it's something that I wouldn't allow on my page. Brian actually made a really good point when the cyberbullying tip or question was brought up about using texting, like using the method that they're using to reach them and educate them. I think that's an awesome idea. So to use social media to educate those adults that are bullying on Facebook and that kind of thing. And yeah, like I said, lead by example. I'm always willing to learn more. I do have some education on cyberbullying, but listening to the community, listening to the youth, and listening to what they think would help to stop the problem.
Yes, cyberbullying isn't something that touches my life as of yet. My kids are still too young. But I think it comes down to awareness. So we need to engage the community if it is that big of an issue and then come up with a plan. So again, I touched before that we have we're great at educating people. We have all these great facilities in town, and we need to work with the community and engage them and see what the issues are and then bring those to our educators and see what we can do to turn things around.
Yeah, cyberbullying, again, it's a big issue, and I think it comes down to education, maybe not just educating the kids on what cyberbullying is and how to deal with it, but you're probably right, educating the adults on recognizing what exactly cyberbullying is and how to deal with it as a parent or as a concerned citizen or a parent, friend, whatever, just to be able to help the kids. There's more to it than just educating the kids. There's definitely the adults need to be educated so that they can recognize the signs and signals of it, and hopefully, going forward, it's a little bit less of a problem, but it's definitely an issue that's in everybody's face right now. So.
Okay, I'm going to totally agree what Andrew said. Everything. Like I said, I don't have a cell phone, and yes, cyberbullying is awful. And maybe that's me sticking my head in the sand, and I don't have anything to do with it. That's me. Yeah, other than that, I don't know what to do with it. I don't have time for a cell phone. I don't have time for a Facebook. My first time Facebook was with Jerome this week. Yay! Other than that, I'm sorry, I don't have any answers with that. Okay.
Terry.
I'm all in favor of social media. The more of it, the better. If you don't understand something, there's temptation to downplay it. And in my lifetime, it's come from almost nothing. The first big project I ran for Dominion Bridge was a hydroelectric project. I had a telephone and I had a telex. That's all I needed. I'd go in the morning with my two fingers and make a tape about 20 feet long because I was dealing with Montreal and Vancouver and Winnipeg. I'd plug it in, and that tape would go through at 100 words a minute. And then one morning, the tape went through some water on the floor, and that was the end of my high tech. But right now, I would like to see town council meetings online in real time so that when the meeting starts, people at home can watch them. Right now, Brian does an excellent job canning them, but we've got to communicate with the young and the old and not a week later or 2 weeks older. Social media is what's going to change the world for the better. In Hong Kong, these young people are protesting and they want democracy and they want it now. It made the Chinese government wake up.
Thanks, Bailey, for asking that, because I think it's so important. When we focus on cyberbullying, all we think about is the youth. And I think it's important that we need to look at adults as well as being bullies on social media. So that's one thing. As the administrator of one of the largest pages in the community, I am very clear that I don't allow that on my page. And I've been criticized for taking off posts and deleting people, but we don't want that. And I won't stand for that on my social media page. So when we passed the anti-bullying bylaw, it was interesting because it was focused first on the youth. And then as we were discussing, we said, well, bullying just doesn't happen with the youth. It happens in our workplace. It happens in our education. It happens at the bar, outside of the bar. And that's not youth. So we need to include adults in that. So we've done that. And but as for social media, as I said, I just don't stand for it on my page.
So there's lots of support groups out there. There were support groups out there long before there was social media. If you reach out and look for the help, it's there for you, regardless of what it is, regardless of what you're being bullied about. I mentioned earlier that I had been bullied a lot of my life. And it's true, I was. And it was through absolute fear that I wasn't being honest with who I was. And at age 44, I finally said, enough is enough, and I'm coming out. And it turns out that I lost one or two friends, and I gained hundreds and hundreds more in this community. So if you band together, you can stop it. There's lots of reasons why people should not be bullying, and if you remind them every time why it's wrong, they just shrink and get smaller and get smaller. They turn out to be nothing but little pipsqueaks, and you can just kick them in the butt.
Hi. My question is for Andrew, and then Jim, and then Al. As the three people who have been on council and mayor for the last 4 years, we're hearing a lot about wanting change and the things that we need to change and things that weren't done well. I would like to know that you guys that have had a vote for the last 4 years, what things are you really proud of that have happened over the last 4 years?
And we'll go in that order, Andrew and Jim and Al.
I think, one of the things that was missing from our 4 years, and it's been pointed to, is that there hasn't been anything built. We talked about renewing infrastructure. Doesn't really look like any infrastructure got renewed. And that is because all of those renewals hinge on the federal government, provincial governments releasing a plan for funding. The last round was called the Building Canada Fund. It was released in 2009, actioned in 2010. We got a water treatment plant expansion or upgrade as a result. But we undertook an engineering study. We've been allocating monies to reserve so that at this point we are well positioned to undertake infrastructure renewal when that program comes available. I've seen people point at some of our reserve balances and say, well, why do we have all that money? That's a lot of money. It could be spent on some little thing for us. But that's the savings that's meant to address our core infrastructure. And I really feel our core infrastructure is a problem. I think we've got a great foundation for addressing it, and I'm really proud of that. There are other things, but I'm not going to get them in a minute, so I'll pass it over here.
I'm really proud of where we're at in terms of a regional landfill site. We're taking on a huge responsibility that we're not just going to look after our garbage, we're going to look after everyone else's garbage, and we're going to do it in a regional fashion. And the province is going to be all over that. They just think that that's just a great thing to do. So I'm really proud of that. The other thing that I am equally proud of, and I'll be honest, sometimes amazed, is that when I got elected, the first day we sat around the table. And so I was used to coming in as the economic development officer, sitting at the end of the table and facing them three on each side. And no, you had to go sit somewhere, and there was only one vacant chair, and it was sitting beside Bert Lajmadier. And I thought, well, this should be interesting, because everybody thought he and I were just going to war like crazy. And I agreed with Bert way more than I disagreed with him. And Bert's here 16 years, he's not running again. Thanks for everything, Bert, thanks.
I'm really proud of the relationships that we've formed over the past 4 years, the relationships with our neighbors, the relationships with the province, the relationships with our community. I'm really proud of the centennial and the way that the community came together and worked on the centennial. That was a huge project that brought back thousands and thousands of people who are proud of their community, of their birthplace. And they came back and they visited and they loved their community. And I'm proud that we have a plan, as Andrew said, to go forward. Yeah, we have infrastructure issues, but you know what? We know how to go forward now. The plan's in place. The regional dump is going to be an economic driver. We're going to have people employed out there. As Jim said, we're going to take all that garbage in from other places, and it's going to provide employment for our community. So all those things I'm very proud of, but I'm also proud of the council that I got to sit with. As we're saying, Bert, who's the longest serving councillor, I think, in northern Manitoba, and then all of us new ones, Ken Gerba as well, and John Marnock, who's not running again. I think we came together fairly quickly, and I'm going to get timed right away, but thank you.
Okay, and we have one final question tonight, and we're running a little late. This one came to the Opasquia Times, was written, public intoxication and consumption of alcohol is a crime. I cannot go down to the river and enjoy a nice bottle of wine and watch the sunset. I would be charged. Why is this law not fully enforced for all citizens, and this one just for the mayor candidates?
So I'm going down the highway and I'm doing 140K and I do it all the time. And every year or two I get caught. Well, you pay your fine. So if you're going to go down to the edge of the river and have a bottle of wine, you know, enjoy it. Just don't get caught. And so, you know. But these folks, in all sincerity, these folks, they don't care anything about any law. All they want to do is get drunk. All they want to do is get high. And they don't care how they have to go about doing it. And so what's happened in our community, that we've allowed it to get to a position where taxpayers, good folks, lots of kids are coming down the sidewalk and they have to do a 2-block detour just to avoid going down by a park that's downtown because they're going to get hassled, they're going to get pushed, they're going to have money demanded from them. They don't want to go by and see human excrement piled up beside a building. We're letting all of this happen. We can't let this happen anymore. It's our town. Now, when do we take it back? I think as soon as possible. We just simply cannot let this happen. Sure, there's social issues, but right now there's a whole lot of law breaks that are happening all over the place, and this really needs to come to an end. We need to be in charge.
Your time.
Ditto, except for going down and enjoying your bottle down and that thing, because I think that's against the law. And that's why we brought in a bylaw enforcement officer. And the bylaw enforcement officer was supposed to go out there and do the work of moving people around and enforcing the bylaws. And unfortunately, our bylaws were antiquated. I told the seniors the other day, by the way, if you're riding a horse down the street in the town of the Paw at night, you no longer have to have somebody in front of you with a lantern, because we took that bylaw out here just recently. So what we need to do is we need to hire somebody, get them in there, and start forming some relationships with people down there, get them moving like we used to do before. And it's a social issue, as Jim says, and I agree with that. Can the RCMP do it? You know what? The RCMP is busy, and I would rather have them investigating assaults and these other things than would have them moving people down on the street. So we need to hire somebody to get them to do that.
I replied to a Facebook quote, and I thought for a while and said, "There, but for the grace of God go I." Some members of my family suffer from alcoholism, and you do everything you can to help them. These people in the Paw, they're human beings. I put in a quote that they got mothers and fathers, siblings, and if they've fallen through the cracks, they're still human beings. There's a word in German that's the only word that you can't put in any other language, called useless feeder, and that's what the Nazis did. They took people who were mentally ill or alcoholics or gays, whatever, and that's what they used the death camps for. And then on January 20th, 1942, they had a conference and decided they'd exterminate all the Jewish people. So these people have to be treated with the greatest dignity. Somehow we got to not give them money to buy a bottle of Jordan wine or a hit or whatever they want. if there's some place that we could let them dry out, then we've got to just have compassion.
Candidates will each be given 1 minute to give any closing remarks. This will be done in reverse order of the opening statements. And again, councillor candidates go first, which means we start with Crystal Moorish.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep this short because I got cut off, although people will say that I can't say hello in less than 5 words. But one of the things that I would just like to say is that I think that I would be a very strong asset to council. I have a lot of knowledge, both with grant monies. I have a good relationship with a lot of different ministers and stuff like that with the province. I'm young. I'm really energetic. There's a lot of things that I've done in town, so I think it's been proven that, like when I do something, like I do it, I carry it through, and I see it through to the end. I think that we need a good team on council. I think that, council is only as good as the team, and I think that I would be a really good team player. I'm good at working with people. I'm good at asking questions when I don't know the answer, and really, I want to be the voice for the community. I really do. I would never go in and make a decision or vote a way that I felt wouldn't be to the betterment of the community.
Next is Margaret Commodore.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight and listening to me. And like I said, I've been nervous all night. And yes, I've probably not given you the right answers that you wanted to hear. I don't know all the answers. I have a lot of questions too, and that's why I'm putting my name forward to sit in that chair and learn a lot and get some answers and hopefully satisfy a few of you, maybe a whole bunch of you. But all I can do is say I'm going to just do my best. Thank you.
And move forward.
It's like pass the parcel with these mics here. Thanks for coming out. I mean, I was here in 2010, and we maybe had a third of the people that are here tonight, and that's good. It's good for the public to be engaged. On that note, one of the things that's been talked about is a desire to see how the public is engaged, or the ability of the public to engage mayor and council should be changed or be more available and open, and I'm fine with that, absolutely. I've always made a point to try and talk with people that come and understand what their concerns are and make them feel as though they're being heard. Additionally, I don't want to give the perception that I don't support additional recreation or change to how things are rolled out. I do, if there is a way that can be found for that to happen without raising our property taxes. I don't want my property taxes to go up any more than they have. I might accept a $5 change, like a $5 increase to my property taxes in a year, but I'm not willing to accept 150. So that's what I'm about right now.
Chad Zielinski.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming out. This is awesome. I've never seen the town so engaged in anything local, like ever. This is awesome. Like, it's so good to see so many people engaged in the election, wanting the answers, asking the right questions, and I think there's a reason for that. People aren't happy. It's time for a change, and if I can be the person who's the right change for you, I'm here to do my best for you guys. So that's basically all I got.
Alan Gibb.
Yes, same as the other candidates. Thanks so much for coming out. Win or lose, it's been a lot of fun, and it's great to see the community so engaged. I think in past years it just sort of passes by, but it's great to have a full house, and even at the council meetings with everyone. Win or lose, it's been fun, right? So, but I'd like to say, as a community, I think we have tons of opportunity, and we just need some strong leadership to unlock that. And I'd like to be a part of the team, and again, not only do we need a bit of a common sense revolution, I call it. So I think if we have a little more common sense around the table and a lot of differing views, that we're going to move together forward in a positive manner.
Brian Roth.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out, everyone. It's really good to see you all. If I were elected to council, one of the first things I'd want to do is get rid of that committee of the whole. They're doing the business of council without the benefit of being in a meeting And it's only in a council meeting that we council members would have authority. So let's get rid of that and move that business back into the council chamber in the council meeting. You'll note in committee of the whole, they never pass a resolution, they never pass a bylaw. They know they can't do it in that body. So why are they doing the rest of the business of receiving reports from our standing committees instead of council? Why are they making decisions on behalf of council without being with the authority of council? They have to change that, and I think if we do that and we move forward, then the whole council will be better informed, the public will be better informed, and together we'll make better decisions. And maybe that'll drop your taxes. Maybe that'll fix your roads a few days earlier. Maybe that'll solve some of our problems.
Alan McLaughlin.
Good. Again, thank you very much for coming out. This has been great. Everyone's been engaged in this election, and I'm really, really happy about that. As I said, I think we've got a really good foundation that we've put in place. I think the next 4 years you're going to see a great, great change in the community. I truly believe that the CDC is going to come to a fruition, and we're going to have some industry coming here, and our taxes will be flattened out. So next 4 years are very important. It's all about relationships, and I've formed those relationships, especially with the provincial government, and we need to work on that, and I'd love to be your mayor for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Jim Scott.
That's okay. I'm passionate about my community. I love my community. I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. I chose to live here. I'm never leaving here. The only trip I'm taking is that way over, and you know where that is. And that's the last time I plan on moving. So I'm home. I believe I have provided in the past evidence of leadership. I was the president of the Pond District Chamber of Commerce 5 times. I was a president of the Paw Rotary Club. I've been involved in downtown revitalization. I believe in this community. I believe in the direction it can go. I believe in the people who live here. I think together we can work our way through these problems. I stood here 4 years ago and asked for your support to elect me to the town of the Paw on council. I stand here today and ask you to elect me as your mayor on October 22nd. Thank you.
Terry Hendrickson.
Thank you. This is my town, it's your town, and we can all be greatly proud of it. Just over a year ago in Quebec, Lac Megantic, 46 people on a Saturday afternoon got incinerated. I think if I'm elected mayor, I'm going to give a sunset clause of 2 years that all these tanks of diesel and gasoline and liquefied propane are going to be moved to one of the 2 industrial parks we have. Before we didn't have industrial parks, now we do. Texaco and Shell, through attrition, moved out of town. And to have 2 million gallons of fuel 100 feet from an elementary school, it just doesn't wash. If you sit waiting for a light and look across, the railroad tracks are almost at your hip level. It'd be downhill. And those big tanks of diesel have to be moved out of town for the welfare of all of us. The other point I want to make is the security. We've got retired RCMP in town. I don't know what it is. You come to the Paw and you never leave. And I think if we just get our security system for the schools and the community, video cameras, full body armor, never let what happened to Sandy Hook happen again. And those 4 beautiful RCMP officers who got killed, I don't want that to happen in the Paw.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Just a reminder, Blake's Taxi is offering free rides to the advanced polling station October 15th and 16th. Also a reminder to check out your polling station map, which will be, it's on the walls on both sides of the lecture hall. So on your way out the door, make sure that you take a look to see where your polling station is. And also, quickly before we take off, on your way at the front door, there is a collection plate. If you have it in your heart, please do make a contribution to Mary Duncan School. Thank you and good night.